Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And it looks like Hollywood is losing its battle against AI, at least for now. And we know the end game is for Hollywood studios to basically control AI.
It's okay if they use it, if everything they do is copywritten, but you can't do anything derivative or we're going to come after you.
Right. And it's okay if they go after people for using their IP, right? But it's problematic if the AI companies are using their IP to train their models. We're going to talk about this. We're going to dive into it and see what this means. It was a huge loss for them. And I think what is going to happen is we're going to realize that in the eyes of the law, they view AI training on copyrighted material potentially as just it's learning just like a human being would. It's looking
Except it's learning a lot faster than
it's learning a lot faster. So, but I guess at that point it's like, okay, so if somebody wants to learn how to draw comic books, you're not allowed to try to draw like Jim Lee to practice. You're not allowed to read Jim Lee comic books or whatever.
When you're trained in art, like a lot of times they'll have you copy old masters, or they'll have you look at stuff and then try to figure out, how they did it and break it down and stuff like that. I mean, writing, you read books, and then a lot of times you take what you've learned or what you enjoy or what resonates with you, and you reflect that into what you put out. So there's nothing original under the sun. Everything's just derivative of something else at this point in time. And, I guess that's the same logic. The difference is computers can process way faster, can develop way faster, and it's not exactly the same as a human learning how to do something, because you're changing it enough. And it's really going to be hard to, I think, hard pressed to prove that you did train your AI. Let's say have hardcore evidence, with something.
Yeah,
it's going to be really hard to prove that.
And people misunderstand what generative AI does. I mean, a lot of times they're like, oh, it literally just copied this drawing or this whatever. It's like, no, it basically looked at millions or billions of images and composited what it thinks you want from that. And it's going to be hard to prove. And I think eventually we're going to have, especially if people are using it in a commercial setting, we're going to have some kind of like a digital fingerprint or something. So people know, like, this is my character or whatever. I might have used AI assistance for it, but this is like my thing. I thought of it, whatever.
Yeah, but even if you thought of it, they're going to still input it in to train something else. I mean, it is what it is. And it sucks. I mean, you're more pro AI than I am. We're never going to agree on this one.
No,
but I just think that there's, it's not the same as human necessarily.
I'm pro AI as a tool, but I do acknowledge there need to be some guardrails on it. Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk about this. We're going to look and see what's going on with this. But yeah, I guess it was a huge wake up call to Hollywood. So let's talk about it.
They were going to wait. We were like, what do they think they were going to do? This walk in and demand stuff, and they were going to say, yeah, sure, because you're Hollywood.
Yes.
Okay. Well, before we get into any further,
Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. You'll get a woohoo if you do.
Woohoo!
All right, orcs are a-hole. Orcs are a-holes. Check it out on BackerKit, badorcs.com. You got a couple of days yet to back this one. Might put it on Kickstarter as well, but we got enough funding to get these made anyway. So thank you very much for that, guys. Really appreciate it. So let's go out to this article. It's come from The Wrap. AI scores an early win against Hollywood as copyright war escalates. Court ruling this week gives AI companies a loophole to cheaply obtain copyrighted work and get around more costly licensing deals. All right. So they said, they scored a crucial legal victory in their ongoing battle with the media and entertainment worlds, in a win that tilts the balance of power toward the AI companies and will likely spur them to eschew cutting major deals with Hollywood studios, at least for now, according to industry insiders and legal experts. On Tuesday, California federal judge William, I thought it said Alsop, like, isn't that or AI slop? William Alsop ruled Anthropic, the company behind Claude AI, could train its models on copyrighted work without the consent of creators or rights holders, as long as those works were obtained legally. There's a lot of wiggle room in how the companies can go about that last part. More on that in a moment. Basically, if you use so many social media platforms or even post your work to like DeviantArt or something, you could be signing away your rights. You could be like, yeah, you're totally cool with using it to
Yeah,
train.
and all those places have snuck that language in.
They have. They're like, oh, look, our new terms of service. And at the very, very bottom of the new terms of service is like, oh, yeah, hey, guys, by using our platform, you're agreeing to let our AI train on your stuff. Now, again, there's misunderstanding. Letting the AI get trained on your stuff is not the same as the AI lifting your stuff one-to-one. It basically is going to take a look at your stuff and deconstruct it and figure out what makes it tick, and then it's going to try to do a better version of it. So in some ways, it's worse, Yeah. Or just change it 25%. The ruling marks it marks an early win in a legal fight between Hollywood and AI companies has been steadily brewing. While AI has left many industries scrambling to figure out the impact of the technology, the entertainment world is particularly concerned about how its intellectual property is being used to empower the algorithms. The decision, which was pegged to the company's use of copyrighted books to train its LLM, will likely leave Hollywood executives feeling more trepidation. So maybe weirdly enough, Hollywood will cool its heels on it if they're like, well, you can't really copyright this stuff and they can train it.
Yeah, so like if they keep using AI to generate it and this can't be copywritten, why would they want to do that? You know what I mean? Even if it's faster, why would you want to do that?
This judge is writing almost as if he works for the AI companies in the way he's framing it, said the CEO of Fable Studios, whose showrunner AI platform lets users create animated shows. He said, it's an interesting ruling which specifically said Anthropic's decision to train the LLM on copyrighted books fell under fair use because the work was transformative. Is coming as there's been a war on AI between two factions in Hollywood in recent years. Again, it's training, it's learning from it as long as it's not copying it directly. Like you can have it look at millions of articles and learn how to write in AP style, or have it look at millions of images and be like, oh, okay, this is what a comic book panel from 1983 looked like, approximately. And it is transformative because it's actually combining the, so it's like having the entire internet injected. If you took a human and injected all of Google image search into their brains and said, now you know how to draw pretty much anything because you've got everything in your head right now. And that's
I'm sitting here thinking like people are really mad about it, especially art people, which, I'm also like, I'm on board with tool only, but it's also funny to me, the same people that are mad about this also draw their own versions or draw copies of characters that are copyrighted characters and take them to conventions and sell them.
I know, right?
I mean, all of us art people have done that. You know what I mean? Us included. So I think it's interesting that people are so up in arms about it, but they themselves make a lot of their money by taking other people's stuff and then using it but making it a little bit different because it's their style and taking it to shows and selling it. And it's like, you think that's okay, but you don't think this is okay. And this is like totally transforming everything. But I do think it might make Hollywood pause because now they're like, well, I can't copyright my shit.
Yeah, that's going to be the next thing. And that's what I talked about before. There's going to have to be some kind of a token or something, going forward. But it's basically, I think the technology is evolving faster than the law can keep up with it. And I want to be very clear. I am in favor of using AI as a tool, but I will totally admit there need to be some guardrails on it because it is going to, definitely disrupt a lot of people's lives, but also, it has the capability of just stealing from people. I mean, technically it could and just be like, well, just take Scarlett Johansson's voice and make it 25% different.
Yeah.
Or, you know what I'm saying?
It is definitely, a fine line here that is being crossed. And I think that's the problem too. And I also think it's funny, like Google wants to do everything AI, which we talked about before with videos and with websites, and they're putting people out of work because they're scraping everything else and regurgitating it in their own words. And it's like, but if you don't have stuff to scrape, how are you going to continue to keep up?
Right. And that's just it. Cause we're going to hit a wall with that, where basically the AI is going to train itself on its own stuff. Mm-hmm. And we're going to have the biggest circle jerk ever.
Happens. Right.
Yeah. It will be the dead internet at that point. So they're talking about Justine Bateman. She said that it's going to burn down the business. And that is the concern of these people. The reason it matters to them now is they're like, oh shit, look at all the jobs we're going to lose. But the studios might back off a little bit, be like, yeah, well, if we can't really, because if we can do it, then anybody can do it. Why would you pay us
Well, that's
to go
true,
see a movie
but
if
they're
anybody can make a
also-
movie in their own home, you know?
They're going to make a movie and they're going to want copyrights to that movie. These characters, they're theirs. But if they used AI to create them, the question becomes, do you own those, or was it AI generated? And if you're trying to claim that you can train your stuff on AI or on other people's works to generate AI stuff, you can't then turn around and say that you should have copyright rights
Yeah.
on your AI created stuff. And I think that Hollywood's going to push it as far as they can to replace people to wherever the limit is. Wherever the line is, it'll stop, because that'll hurt their bottom line and their copyright rights. But I think they'll definitely take it up to that line.
Yeah. Yeah, they're going to go right up to it. But I mean, they always have. Hollywood does what's best for Hollywood, right? That's just kind of the way it works. But then you've got James Cameron. This is what I believe. They said James Cameron explicitly says AI models are just how brains work. They said he was referring to comments made by the Terminator 2 director in which he said AI models are already resembling human brains and that they're able to take in information and produce something from it. The concern, Cameron said, should be with AI models spitting out plagiarized material, not the information the models are trained on. That's kind of where I'm at. Like, again, if you're a human and you're learning how to draw, you're learning how to play music, you're learning how to write, you're going to look at the works of other humans and learn how to do it. That's literally how we do things. And as long as it's not spitting out the exact same thing, I mean, everything's already been done. Everything under the sun's been done, been thought of. Every story you think is the most unique story ever, somebody else has thought of it. Maybe you just put together in a different way. And that's why I always tell people, you know, when it comes to any creative thing is like, you know, if somebody else has done something similar, don't sweat it because everything's already been done. It's just you put it together, you put the parts together in a different way. There are only so many ingredients that you can use to cook with, right? And that's kind of what's going on here. The thing is, like you said, it can do it so much faster than a human. So
Right.
what's
a
the
human
point?
can take decades to get to a point where they could do something amazing. They can take like, a day, or less.
Yeah, it's like how many years did you have to train with one of the Italian masters to learn how to paint like them? How many years? You become an apprentice, and the computer's like, yep, I'm just gonna take a look at all these. Okay, done. I'm done. I know how to do this now. They said, yeah. So I think people are looking at wrong. The whole thing needs to be managed from a legal perspective. What's the output, not the input, said Cameron. Judge Allslop. Allslop agreed.
What's the output, not the input? So Hollywood should be allowed to train their AIs on everything that already existed, and there should be no question. But we should get copyrights when we put something out. That's basically the.
Yep, they said, I think the AI companies are going to be emboldened by this decision, said general counsel for Showtime. They're going to say, this is great. This is exactly the result we wanted. We're going to go full speed ahead. What'll happen probably is Hollywood will cut deals with these companies and be like, okay, fine, go train on our competitors' stuff. Leave our stuff out of it. Here's umpteen $1 million.
Yeah, but they're all paying them to do it, then they can't train anything.
Yeah.
But I just think it's funny. They're like, they're completely fine with inputting the copyright work of others into the system as long as they get to copyright what comes out. And I'm just like, I just find that that's entertaining to me. Because I'm where if you're going to go ahead and use the AI and you're not, if you're training it on your own stuff, that's different. If you're using an AI and you're training it on your style and your things and you're using it for like a book or something, that I'm not talking about that. But I'm talking about what they're complaining about, where these AIs are being trained with all this other this film work and voice work and all this other stuff for years, and then it cranks out something that's quote unquote new, and then they want to copyright that. I don't think they should be allowed to copyright that because it was not theirs. It wasn't, unless it was mostly human involvement. I don't think you should be allowed to.
Yeah, so here's how it sets the ground rules. They said AI companies must pay for the content they're using to train their models, but that doesn't mean companies like OpenAI need to cut pricey deals with media companies and studios. Instead, AI companies can spend $250 on an issue of the New York Times and upload it to their training database. Rosenberg explained, to meet their legal requirements. So they had to pay for it in some capacity, but they didn't have to cut a multi-million-dollar deal. It could be as simple as, they said for scripts, they said somebody can go out and buy the script to Back to the Future for $22 on Amazon, and that constitutes paying for it. Somebody can buy your book.
They're not going to do that, though.
No.
They're not going to do that. But I'm just like, I just think it's the whole thing is a can of worms, and every time you think there's one worm taken out, there's a bazillion other ones in there.
Because again, the technology is moving faster than we can figure out what the ramifications are going to be. Basically, Hollywood knows if they don't get this under control, they're screwed, because they can do it now, but it's hard. It's hard now. But people are going to be able to generate their own movies on the fly, whatever they want, a la carte, voice, music, the whole thing, and eventually they're not going to need Hollywood.
Well, wait, here's my question. So if I put a book out there, and I don't give them permission to use it to train, but they buy the book and they use it because they paid for it, but they use it to train something. You know what I mean? Isn't that a little questionable? Because the person that created it didn't give permission. Like if a voice actor was they bought the original audio clip of something, and a voice actor was in it, and they bought the rights to use it, and then they can copy that voice actor's voice. That voice actor didn't agree to it. You see, there's just too many.
Yeah,
there's too many like things that wouldn't apply if it wasn't AI, but is going to apply because there's AI, and it's like then basically no one can sell anything, because if you sell a copy of the newspaper, they might scrape it. If you sell this, they might scrape it. If you sell that, they might scrape it. You know what I mean? There's a problem there because you're not explicitly giving permission, but if they buy it, they're saying they're legally allowed to copy it.
Yeah, it's going to get complicated. Look, money talks at the end of the day, and they're talking about how even the Disney Midjourney lawsuit could shape up. That it's basically going to open the door for these big deals. And I think what's going to happen though, ultimately, is the AI companies and the Hollywood studios are going to have a really cushy deal, and consumers are not going to have access to the same tools.
Exactly. That's exactly what's going to happen.
And that because everybody's like, oh, this is going to be democratic. Anybody's going to be able to make a Hollywood level production on their home computer. And that's a great thought. And I think that it's easier than ever to do that. But I think the really, really good stuff is going to get locked behind closed doors, and it's going to take millions of dollars to be able to access it. So I think we're going to be kind of stuck with whatever the leftovers are.
Pretty much, and they'll make sure whatever their output will be eventually will be copywritten, but yours will not be, so that they can buy your book and train their AI on it.
Yeah. So that's interesting though. They're already kind of losing, and I don't know how this is going to go with Disney and Midjourney. They have to prove that, I guess, there's some harm to their business.
Yeah, but in case of the Midjourney thing, they were flat out copying their characters. It wasn't like you were just inputting stuff and then coming up with something different at the end. There wasn't even 20%, 25% difference. Like they were just letting people use their characters straight up. There's a difference between that and this, because they're arguing here that if you legally obtain this stuff and you all input it in, and the AI generates something that's completely different, transformative from that, that's okay. But those things they were putting over there were not transformative.
No. I agree with that. So we'll see. This is going to be very interesting, because this literally is the future of all entertainment.
It makes my head hurt.
We live in interesting times. We've been living in interesting times. Are we going to wrap it up?
Yep.
Please subscribe for more pop culture, news, views, and rants. We'll talk later.
Bye.
For more pop culture news, views, and rants, go to news.clownfishtv.com. That's news.clownfishtv.com.